Orb presents Handsome Ransom.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
Pounding down the door to say, I like this episode, god damn it.
I like this episode too. They shouldn't have doubled down, but it's a really good episode.
It doesn't bug me because it's a really good, fun episode.
It's a good episode. No.
The straw men I'm imagining who are pounding at the gates are just keeping me up at night, you know?
Oh man! When I say they shouldn't have doubled down, the season where they introduce Sergeant Hatred might not have been the most opportune time to throw in this one as well.
Maybe. I think that they're pretty different.
Yes, they are. It is this. I agree with you. This is a really good episode. We're in a run of really good episodes.
Oh, totally. Fucking season 4, man. Whew. Like, let's next episode's Perchance the Dean. Get me the fuck in here, man.
Yeah.
It is all good. Got the Revenge Society coming up, The Better Man, which is one of my favorites. Just absolutely killer season. I'm so excited.
We're in a real good run, and I think that this episode works really well. I like Captain Sunshine.
I laugh a lot at this.
Yes.
So this is a Jackson Public joint. Originally aired October 25th, 2009. The idea here is he'd been wanting for a long time to do a hostage story, and he did it. The Monarch tries to take a hostage, the boys hostage. Hank ends up becoming basically a hostage of Captain Sunshine and the sidekick, who is a superhero, who is kind of a Batman-Superman mashup, and he gets his boy wonders killed, like Batman does.
This is great. And also it is like it is the joke to character pipeline that Venture Brothers does really, really well. The fact that Captain Sunshine had just kind of been mentioned offhand, at a couple of points prior to this. We know that kind of this is the Monarch's side piece, who, when he gets drunk and desperate, he just goes and arches him for a while.
Does a little arching, and it's all based entirely on a misunderstanding.
Yep,
which is great. Like there's two previous mentions of Captain Sunshine. One, did you send the charred remains of Wonder Boy to Captain Sunshine? And then the other one, him telling the anecdote where he's like, oh, Captain Sunshine's weapon malfunctioned, so he thinks I'm invulnerable to this day. And he's totally outclassed. Like, this is super fun.
Yeah.
Like, taking a Monarch level villain and putting him up against a Superman level threat. Like, the most powerful superhero probably in this universe.
Yeah. And definitely, like, we've not really seen a lot of people with superpowers yet.
Yeah. just extreme. And the whole team is really good. I would have loved to get more of the Action News team.
Same. Yeah.
God, do I love the Action News team. I think that is so funny. Everything with that. I've been walking around thinking about the Action News copter.
Oh yeah, I say Chopper 5 all the time. I walk around making up facts about Chopper 5.
Chopper 5 is fucking incredible.
Chopper 5 flies upside down to get you the news.
The newest addition to the news arsenal. It's such a funny idea. And it's so, like, whenever I think about why the show is so special to me and why I love these creators so much, it's like, that's the kind of shit that I thought was real funny as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Like, you'd be watching, the news would be on, your parents would be watching it or something, and then they just cut to like a weird sizzle reel for a helicopter out of nowhere, and it was like the funniest thing in the world, and then it went away. Like, I feel like that doesn't happen anymore. And then these guys remembered it, and I just get that intense feeling of fellowship. It's like church.
Yeah.
Man, these guys got Doppler pilled as kids.
Yeah, exactly. And open your hymnal to the, Psalm 415 about how WKZY has double Doppler technology. Like,
just like, quit trying to make the news exciting.
Yeah,
like Action News, and like The Simpsons made fun of that too, and it's really great.
Of course, yeah.
But it was just such a weird thing about the early '90s. We should address, so when we're referring to the Captain Sunshine thing, this is it seems very obvious that they're making jokes that Captain Sunshine is a pedophile.
Yes.
This is instead like they have more deniability here than they do with Sergeant Hatred, and they're not trying to do deniability to Sergeant Hatred. He's just a reformed pedophile.
Yeah.
But Captain Sunshine, like this is something that has always come up with comics.
Yeah. I mean,
The implication that Batman fucks a Robin
yes,
is as old as the hills.
yeah, and it's not just like an easy joke to make, you know, in a Kevin Smith context. Like this goes back to like 1954 with The Seduction of the Innocent, just this moral panic book, you know, or on one of the many moral panics that happened around comic books that were saying like this is priming young children to accept, you know, grooming. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's what the Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay is about.
I don't know
like
what that is.
The Michael Chabon. It was like Michael Chabon's breakthrough book. You know, is super popular book.
Yeah.
So it's about this basically.
Yeah. So in universe, everybody thinks that Captain Sunshine, you know, he goes through these boy wonders, you know, and just, you know, when they see him with a new one, they're like, oh God, not again. You know, they're just thinking like, okay, there's something unseemly going on. And it is dark what's happening, but it's not that dark.
Dark in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a world where characters really, really appreciate tropes. You know, like every character in this is just like, oh man, classic Death Ray. You know, so it makes sense for a character to be like, oh man, like Boy Wonder.
Yeah.
You know, like when he runs into Scorpio during this, Scorpio is not lusting after Wonder Boy. You know, he's like, I would like to tie him to a typewriter. He's using the language of seduction, but just saying ridiculous villain shit.
Yes.
You know, and that's, you know, and it's not that the creators, you know, that Jackson and Doc are unaware of it. They're writing that with the intention.
Yeah.
There's tons of like double entendres and just like creepiness going on here. Like they're playing with that misconception.
Yes.
But when in my memory, I was remembering this episode and I was like, oh, they say it's not sexual, but they knew. And now it's like, no, they knew, but also it's non-sexual. Like they're playing in the space. They're both true.
Yeah, they're aware, and I think that like what's really going on with Captain Sunshine is super interesting, you know, just because, you know, in the same way that a lot of the, again, people who inhabit these roles or, you know, exhibit these tropes, you know, on the surface, the kind of like realistic result of that, like the backfire happens behind the scenes, and it is addressed. It is addressed here, you know. What would somebody be like if they have only ever known this superhero, you know, kid sidekick, you know, kind of dynamic? What kind of you know, emotional wreck would they be if the kids kept getting killed? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the way that everyone in the world would think of it, you know, the man on the street, like in real life, you know, we can buy a comic and on the surface be like, oh yeah, this is Robin. Batman owns him. And he's this little kid who's an acrobat who Batman makes do stuff.
Yeah. He's stolen from the circus.
Like,
don't worry, his parents were dead.
Yeah, he Tim Heidecker, a circus kid. Like we get it. But in real life, people would probably, you know, raise an eyebrow at it. It reminds me a lot. There's a new pornographer song called "Joseph Who Understood," which is about Joseph and Mary and all of Joseph's friends giving him the side eye when his virgin wife gets pregnant. You know, with the implication that she cheated on him. Like he's like, yeah, I didn't have sex with her, and she's like, yeah, she's pregnant, dude. Like. You got played. And I'm like, that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah.
You know, like no one's gonna be like, oh yeah, it's the son of God. You know, people would throw a side eye at it. That's what this reminds me of. Like there's nothing really going on there. There's something more genre-y and weird going on. But the mundane explanation is what people are going to go to because of Occam's razor.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the mundane explanation being he wants to fuck Hank.
So this character could, you know, just basically live or die in their performance. Fortunately, in an excellent meta joke, they brought in Kevin Conroy, the man who voiced Batman in the Batman animated series and the Batman Arkham games. They say it in the in either the art book or the commentary, but like the canonical Batman for a whole generation, basically.
Yeah, it's in the commentary.
Yeah.
Where they talk about that, which it's a unusually fun commentary despite being very low information. They so much so that they stopped watching the show about 2/3 the way through.
Yeah. Well, just the video glitches, and they're like, all right, we're not sure if it's still going, but we're just going to talk. Yeah.
Yep, we got toys coming out, everybody. That'll be fun. I love the anecdote of them being in the booth and not wanting to tell Kevin Conroy to do Batman voice. You know, just like turning off the mic and being like, "That's Batman." You know, to each other. It was very relatable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so Kevin Conroy, he was trying to play up the creepiness angle of it, and they're like, "No, like this needs to be more. It needs to be. You need to play it more straight." Right?
Yeah.
You know,
say the words. Let the words be creepy, not the performance.
Yes.
It's not like Dom DeMillo's Batman. You know, bring on the Robins. So real fun for them. I was happy for them to get a chance to work.
Yeah.
With Kevin and Conroy, even though now everyone can do that via Cameo.
I
can get Captain Sunshine to give me a monologue right now for like $100.
Yep.
So what a weird dystopia we live in.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So this is on the commentary. He talks about how this is the first episode he wrote for the season. He always does these nothing one-offs. A lot of times those tend to be my favorite episodes. And he said this was the last one that was like super easy for him. Like he had it totally outlined. He knew exactly what I want to do. The ideas have been kicking around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of ease comes through on the page.
Yeah. It feels like it just kind of flowed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into it. I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Let's do it.
So happy to be in season 4.
I know,
Man,
right?
Season 4.
That's great.
Give me some more.
Yeah, I mean, just even opening the mecha pillars. How much do the mecha pillars cost, Monarch?
The mecha pillars are so funny because they don't. So one of the things they accomplished with the opening of this season, you know, is that in Blood of the Father, Steel of the Heart,
Heart of Steel.
You know, Heart of the Parts of the Dark of the Chart. Like in that episode, they got a lot of mileage out of being like, hey, there's a new status quo. You know, you don't know what's going on. But the Monarch doesn't appear in that episode.
Nope.
Like we get to see 21 being a little bit more buff, but just throwing us into the deep end of the water with what's been going on with the Monarch. With the mecha pillars and then like 21 with the Wolverine blades is very funny.
Yep.
Like it's really great. Just like, oh shit, things have been happening.
Yep. Yeah. And he bought some mecha pillars to cocoon the boys. It's got him hanging there, and he's on the phone with Rusty saying like, you know, if you don't send me $10 million, I'll kill the only proof that you ever had sex. And they're like, what? You don't arch for money? That's not what this is.
It's so cute. Like there's a little animation beat. I love Rusty and Sergeant Hatred checking their wallets. Like it's so dumb.
Let me go see if I have 10 million on my couch.
Yeah. You know, Rusty says, you know, do you want anything in the lab? You know, he's like, no. He's like, what if I do half just for Dean? And Sergeant Hatred calls him out for that because Sergeant Hatred, you know, good guy.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, what did you like? What that little sass mouth called me a honky this morning?
I love that
good.
so much. I
and then
cry
I love
laughing
that Monarch
every
being
time.
like, is that true? And be like, yeah. And then him and the Monarch having a little moment.
Yeah. There are a couple of times where just we get the secondhand sass mouth where Rusty describes we're a couple episodes away from hearing about how Hank called him the president of the United States of boogers.
Man, season 4 Hank.
Yeah. just insolent Hank, but just the idea of Hank calling Rusty a honky. It's really
Honky's
good.
a very funny insult.
It's a very funny insult.
I was at band practice yesterday, and Brian, who plays drums in the band, has kids. And I was talking about him putting his kids in the sun zone. And then be like, hey, Dad, don't sun zone me. You know, like when he disciplines them. Like I love to dad zone my dad by putting him in a home. Like, oh, my kid totally dad zoned me. Father-son dynamics are funny.
It's very funny, but I mean, even just like, you know, being around a kid, if a kid says something funny, you know, but it's like sass or they swear or it's something that they're not supposed to say, it's really hard not to laugh. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I know,
Like,
I would just be encouraging it if I laughed, but like that kid's really funny.
But yeah, it's funny. I'm not going to not laugh because as a kid, you had to maintain the illusion for kids that things that don't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Like the again, just to like steal an anecdote, Brian was saying how he took his kid to like this little tennis, like, Parks and Recreation day thing. And another kid there named Dylan, who sounds badass, got in trouble for spraying mustard all over the tennis court. And Brian was being told about it, and he was trying not to laugh because he wanted to, like, back up the instructor, who was like, yeah, don't mustard up the tennis court, Dylan. But in fact, it's actually really funny, and Dylan rules.
Yeah.
So it's really like yes, they had to hose it off and stuff, but it's very funny to have him like come home and be like, yeah, today, Dad, Dylan was making a sandwich and he got mustard all over the tennis court and got yelled at. And then finding out that it turned out he grabbed this gigantic, like, Kirkland's Best magnum of mustard that he brought just for throwing on the tennis court. For cool kid reasons.
Oh, God.
Dudes rock.
Oh, he call it dudes do rock.
Yeah, every once in a while, dudes rock. So the Monarch signs off. He says he's going to send the boys over the Rainbow Bridge to Valhalla, but doesn't realize how that's not as dark as it sounds. But unfortunately, he's interrupted by Captain Sunshine, just blasting everyone with solar rays, which sunburns them. And I love the Monarch when he's getting attacked.
Yo.
You're just like, you dick,
Well, and I just love how throughout the entire episode, as people get attacked, like just one whole side of their face will be burnt. Like they just walk around because that, like, obviously, it doesn't go away right away. It's great. Yeah. But he comes in, it's like, you dick. And he grabs the Monarch and flies away. And he says, oh, you may be invulnerable, Monarch, but you aren't invulnerable to justice. Again, amazing callback for this.
Very good.
So it just reminds him, hey, you're going to pay for what you did to Wonder Boy. And I love that he just takes him to jail and throws him into the yard.
That's very funny. And just yells to the warden. So he just due process. He just leaves. That is very funny. So we cut over to the hostage negotiation. Rusty's on the side of the road eating sunflower seeds. Because the Monarch is hours late, and they plan an ambush. Hadrid is in the spider hole, just like boiling hot down there, talking about how his ball sack is turning into silly putty. Which is a thing that happens if you're very warm.
Yeah.
Just I understand that feeling exactly.
The things stick together. Yeah. Because I'm half afraid he's going to have Popeye comics on when I pull it off.
Would you? Here's a question for you, and this is probably I should say this for Outer Sufferings. We're recording after this.
Okay.
If you had the option, would you get rid of your ball sack?
Just for streamlining, yeah.
Yeah, it gets in the way a lot.
Yeah, I don't care for my set. I don't mind that I have them. It's just they're not aesthetically pleasing. They're uncomfortable sometimes. Yeah,
they do nothing for
vulnerable.
Me. Mine, even without mine being a fallow, like, salted earth, they do nothing for me.
Right.
They're just a downside.
Yeah,
to me. Fuck them shits, man. Like, normalize dudes just having smooth down there, but still having a ding dong.
Yeah.
I think that's a good look.
We have the technology, people. Okay.
Yeah. If I ever play Cyberpunk, that's what I'm going to go for. I don't know if the general slider allows for just dick no balls, but that's what I want, because a testicle sack is not appealing to me, and I never want to feel that, like, inconvenience, the burden.
Yeah. No, it is just a fucking millstone that we carry around. Yeah.
Yeah, albatross. Just a couple of albatrosses in a bag of albatross and like a seagull sack.
Yeah, right underneath my albacore.
No good.
So they call the cocoon saying, like, hey, what the hell's up? Why are you so late? And Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch says, just makes up an excuse like, oh, I guess it's my time of the month.
Yeah. Just the same way, like, girls in high school would use that to get out of swimming every single week.
Yep.
More power to them.
Yeah.
Monarch comes back. He took a cab back because they just got through in the state penitentiary and yelled for the warden. They kind of do this little, like, the setup for the callback. I think this is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like this joke very much, where he's like, go kill the cabbie. The only thing I like is 21 coming, like, popping claws.
Yep.
And running out to the cab. I think that's great. But he doesn't do it. He sends him away without a tip. And that's the cold the post credits scene.
Yeah.
I like how they talk about Captain Sunshine for a little bit. He's like, yeah, man, he doesn't look so good. And Mrs. Monarch is like, oh, I think he looks pretty good for his age. And I love this very well observed where the Monarch's like, he looks like he's at that age men get where they start looking like somebody's aunt.
Yeah,
that is really well observed.
I think about that when I see an older man. I don't know if it has something to do, just loosening skin or testosterone, like things get kind of crepey. What? Yeah,
curly blonde hair. Like if you have curly blonde hair, you're turning into an aunt.
Yeah.
Like if you get to a certain age, you cannot have the poodle hair.
Yeah.
Like, so I think it's blondness. That's what's like makes you turn into an aunt.
Huh. I can't confirm. I feel like I've seen a brunette older man who has taken on aunt-like appearances, but
I've seen it before, but I think it's very common. It's hard to age well as a blonde.
Yeah.
The blonde man is just really fucking tragic.
I feel lucky as a redhead because redheads generally they don't go through gray; they just go right to white. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is getting that.
Yeah, and hopefully you can skip the Bonaducciing that kind of comes sometimes from redhead. Yeah. Like skip the Bonaducci phase, go right into like the Ray Bauer white hair phase. Not Ray Bauer, the bully.
What?
Yeah. The bully in Stand By Me, not the corpse.
Yes, yeah.
Whose hair turns white. Or
Henry. Yeah, Henry Bowers. Yeah, there we go.
Henry Bauer. There we go. A lot of Bowers in that town.
Oh, man. So Captain Sunshine had come back. Monarch notices that people are more burned and the kids are gone. Or at least Hank is gone. He came back and just grabbed Hank.
He's like, what about Dean? Present. It's like really cute.
Yeah. Oh, but Hank and Captain Sunshine are like flying over the city. The conversation turns to, like, oh, your mother must be worried sick. Oh, I don't have a mom. And then, just kind of talk circles around it. It's like, but basically implies, oh, I don't have a dad either.
Like your dad probably misses you, and he's like, he probably doesn't, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And like, oh, Yahtzee, right? Here we go. Mm-hmm. And this is where people are, looking up and saying like, our protector's back over the city. It's, been a while since we've seen him. Just don't let him take my kid, stuff like that.
Am I right? Don't ever. So that they fly through, it says him and Hank are going to be super friends, plowing through this flock of gulls on the way to stately Scarsdale Manor, which is modeled after Neverland Ranch. It is worth noting that this was written while Michael Jackson was both alive and before he was the subject of a popular documentary. And the you get the impression reading about it and hearing Jackson, like he was just like, yeah, this is a guy who just never grew out of being a kid. Yeah. This was when that was more, slightly more credible.
Yeah.
Slightly.
There were obviously the stories in the court cases at that point. And it was like the joke about him, but also, yes.
You could plausibly believe he was just a weirdo.
Yes.
Now that it would be just horribly naive to believe that.
Yeah. So back at the meet out on the desert road, Cocoon lands near Rusty, who hands over this bag of cash, but the Monarch can just smell the toner. And even like pulls one of the stacks out and is like, you were too cheap to even spring for the double-sided printing. Come on.
Yeah, when they writes on the back, I love it. And then so Hatred pops out, says, now. Hatred pops out of the spider hole, but the lid gets stuck, so he can't get a shot off, and then immediately vomits. Because he's been scarfing pistachios in a hot spider hole for 2 hours because someone was late.
God, I love pistachios, but having too much pistachios plus heat? No.
And plus heat, no good.
No good.
They notice Hank isn't there, and the Monarch is like, oh, because I knew you'd pull this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Hatred calls him out, again, setting up this new status quo, like Hatred knows the rules of this shit.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do your double cross correctly. Rusty says, can we at least have Dean? And Monarch doesn't want to do it. And I love Dr. Girlfriend being like, do you really want him hanging around? Like, it just, present, like Dean is just, game for this stuff.
Yeah.
So the Monarch, he writes him an IOU, and Rusty tries to skimp on the zeros, but he ends up getting caught doing it.
Yeah. Back at the manor, we're introduced to Desmond the butler, kind of the Alfred figure. This is the original Captain Sunshine. We don't learn this until later, but the current Captain Sunshine was his boy wonder, right? And Desmond is rattling off the schedule, but everything is off the table. We have a new Wonder Boy, which Desmond is not necessarily like over the moon about.
Yeah, and the schedule is like a youth dinner or something. They're playing in that water. Hank is really impressed to see this. There's a huge Monarch penny here in the Sanctum Solarium, which is a Batman reference. He even says like this is like the bat, the Bat Cave. He gets offered to be a sidekick, and he's like, does this come with any compensation? He's like, how about free train rides and 20 arcade tokens a week? That sounds like a sweetheart deal. So 20 arcade tokens a week is nothing.
$5.
It's just $5. It's so sad. But he gets a costume, and obviously he's very excited about this because he's always wanted to be a superhero.
Yeah. So Desmond is giving Hank his haircut. So he's got the Superman hair, and Captain Sunshine is just kind of like hovering around outside the door, just excited to see him. And this is as dark as it gets because Desmond is taking Hank into the bedroom and hands him a tube of personal lubricant. Like,
Sure.
what should I do with this? Suggested applications to the buttocks and the inner thigh. I shall leave you to it, Master Hank. There's a non-dark explanation for this, but like the first time I watched this, I was like, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. They could have just said what was going to happen to him, and left it to his imagination. Like they talk about this either in the book or the commentary, but boy. And we probably could put this up front. We're going to talk about pedophilia in this episode because it makes jokes about it. Hank has experience with that.
Yep.
So you would think that Hank would not be really naive about that. And apparently there's a deleted scene that kind of addresses some of that stuff. Where like Sergeant Hatred is like, oh, I know exactly what he's doing. This is classic. And then turns out, he gets proven wrong about it. But they address the fact that like Hank has had history with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they kind of don't address it because we don't need to be reminded of when they were a little bit more cavalier and less nuanced.
Yes.
With that stuff. But this does feel like when you get the explanation for this, it makes sense as a joke. It doesn't make sense as an in-universe thing.
No, it doesn't. So we get to see his bedroom. He's got a race car bed. He's got Captain Sunshine sheets, which is weird. Not many of us grew up with sheets that had a print of our dad on them. No. It's got arcade machines, though, and Hank is just put off by like how clingy and enthusiastic Captain Sunshine is. Seems like he's going to go, Captain Sunshine's going to go leave and go to his own room, but he comes back in with a sleeping bag for a slumber party.
Yeah. Again, the implication is dark. Rusty's trying to get the money together, so he calls JJ. Pirate Captain says he's out building Gargantua too, so he cannot borrow the money. Rusty says like, hey, Hatred, you should be paying for this. You failed as a bodyguard. And he drank the rest of his money or drank his money away. And Princess Tiny Feet took the rest. And he drank her away too.
Starts sobbing like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, just the metamorphosis into divorced dad.
Yeah. I love Sergeant Hatred.
Yeah.
He's a sad man. So we don't know where he's going to get the money, but we cut over to Billy and Pete dancing to, is that what I think it is? Latin jazz? Timiamo Latin jazz? Ay, 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 ay. Bueno.
Roommates.
Listening to some of the greatest music on earth, Latin jazz.
They're wearing neck braces. They just got a $10,000 check from the insurance company with the initials GCI. This is going to be paid off on later. But they're extremely happy. Pete says, "Oh, this is going to finally put conjectural technologies on the super science map." Doing a slip and fall and getting $10 million.
It's they should have been suspicious even before the investors show up.
Yeah.
Rusty calls. They're upset that they need the money. They rip off their neck braces. And they come over. They don't say that they made it selling seeds. They're calling it seed money, like an investment money.
There we go.
And Sergeant Hatred is like, oh, you made that selling seeds? I couldn't even make enough to get the Huffy, or the Schwinn or whatever, the go-kart. It's a weird joke.
Yeah,
but that is the joke.
It's also a reference. Like, I never had I read comic books as a little kid. But like, even when I was reading them, they never had like the ads for the X-ray specs and stuff. So I never, I had no idea until like they talked about this in the commentary that like, oh, selling seeds. Oh, that was just a scam that they ran in like the back of comic books and stuff. It was like, hey, make money selling seeds. Yeah.
Yeah. Those little prizes and stuff.
Yeah.
You could do, like, a lot of times it was in seeds, you'd sell like all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
For them, but it was a way to make children into slave laborers.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, I grew up in the time when the school just directly did that to us, like having us sell French bread pizzas and popcorn and stuff. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so Hatred mistakes Billy for being younger than he actually is. Billy says he's 37, and Hatred's like, loophole, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. But luckily we don't pay too much attention to that yet.
No.
That will become a thing later as well. We get Captain Sunshine getting a call from the action team. So we get these guys who do not get really used over again, other than Ghost Robot.
Thankfully, they bring Ghost Robot back.
Yeah, who's the best one, but they're all good.
Yes.
Barbecue is like a big animate doll that is on fire. Ghost Robot, the robot who is a ghost, is the best of them.
Yeah.
There's a character named U.S. Steel here who is a wrestler based on Uncle Sam, who is called Uncle Slam. And the time he was conceived, there wasn't an Uncle Slam, and then there was.
Yeah, no.
I did not know that was what he's supposed to be called, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, that guy's got to be Uncle Slam.
Oh,
like,
of
I was
course.
figuring out a Laffy Taffy riddle.
Uh-huh.
And I was bummed out when he was U.S. Steel.
Yeah. Then they have kind of a Birdman guy. They've got, it's called Brown Thrasher. That, like, literally, it's just the name of a bird that eats monarch butterflies.
Yeah, they're trying to seed, some things in the future, like they did with Captain Sunshine.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't, they ended up bringing back Ghost Robot. But they're basically saying, they want him back. They want Captain Sunshine back. And he's like, no, I'm busy, and they see Hank in the background and they're all kind of like,
Yeah.
He's just going to be another kid killed.
But the day began for Hank, like he fell through his bed. He's used to that, right? But he fell along the slide, and then he fell into a costume, like it was like an auto dresser kind of thing. And he says, like, "Damn, you were right. That lube slipped on like a glove." so that's
damn Cap, another one.
Yeah. So that's why he was given the lube to go down the slide and get into the costume easier.
Yes. Even though like an auto costume kind of thing does seem like a good way to break both your legs.
It does, yeah.
It's just me being an old man, but it's just like, yeah. One of my favorite details in The Watchmen, as much as like everything in The Watchmen has been done to death, is when he built the mech and he's like, yeah, I tried it once and it broke my arm.
Of course it would.
And it's just in his basement. Like, yeah, none of that
Newton's
shit
third
works.
law, dude.
Yeah.
You actually really should have like foreseen that.
Yeah. As a scientist, like I always like shit like that. So they're gonna have the second meeting for the hostage thing. Monarch wheels out a fake, like he wheels out Hank's torso, but with a bag over his head. And he's like, "Oh, what are you trying to pull?" Like wild horses couldn't get Hank to take off Brock's jacket.
Yeah, it's just a henchman dressed as classic Hank with a bag over his head.
Yeah. The Monarch, kicks Rusty in the nuts and takes the money from him. And Rusty calls for their plan. Apparently, what the idea was that Billy was going to shoot the shrink ray into the money to reverse. We'll find out. Sergeant Hatred, who's in there, in the bag, dressed like a money.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like it's so, and they point this out in the book and in the commentary, which I really love, is that like the reason why Sergeant Hatred works as a bodyguard is he's just kind of up for everything.
Yeah.
Like if you told Brock to do that, he'd be like, I ain't doing that. He'd just pull out his knife and like kill a bunch of henchmen. But Sergeant Hatred's like, yeah, I'll dress up as money and get shrunk down.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the zanier the better. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's just like, he's a yes and man.
Yeah.
He's just happy to be part of the team. Like we're the unit. It's very charming to me.
Extremely. Yeah. But it doesn't work because they shouldn't rely on that shoddy machine.
That fucking shrink ray.
Yeah.
Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is like, you idiot, you have this money, but now we have to actually get Hank.
Yeah.
We can't just take the money and steal it because of guild bylaws.
Right. So now I get, now it's like a big rush to find Hank or to get the money back. So like the Monarch is trying to find Hank to, so they don't have to hand the money back. And they're eventually going to learn, okay, well, we can go take Hank, and then the Monarch can give us the money back because he wasn't technically the one who handed him over. Like he wasn't the hostage taker anymore. So it's just all of this big, like tangled knot of plots and people trying not to pay each other. It's like a Coen Brothers thing. Yeah.
Trying to grab a Hank.
Yes.
One thing, again, like good commentary in this is they're talking about the scene where Dr. Girlfriend has like analyzed the skin and found Sunshine's power profile, power signature. And they're like, yeah, we do all this research for pseudoscience and nobody likes it. And it usually gets cut. And I was like, yeah, this should have been cut. Like it feels like we spent a long time with her like hunched over that computer. I know it's probably only 45 seconds. Or something, but it just like, I wish she had just said it in one line while they're doing something else or like while they're on their way.
Yeah.
We all get it.
Yeah. It's super science reasons. There you go.
Yeah. A little bit of a drag ass, tiny little bit.
Yeah. Just a bit of a speed bump on it. But, they trace the radiation signature and they get the coordinates. There's a little, Monarch is impressed that she's pulled off this thing. Like, oh, why do we even waste our time chasing Dr. Venture around? We could be hassling rich guys. She says, I'm not going to dignify that with a response. It can be in any other way.
It's a very good question.
Yes. Yeah. And Hatred, dressed up as a money, overhears this, and then faxes them a printout of the map. So, Ventures get them back. They can get the money back too. Yeah.
Yep. It's a race. We cut over to Hank driving around with Captain Sunshine in his car. Like, hey, if you can fly, why do we take a car? And Captain Sunshine is like, you sure do ask more questions than he did.
Well, it's probably why Wonder Boy 3 died.
Yeah, gonna need another Wonder Boy. He slams the brakes because he sees this villain named Scorpio driving a Scorpion mobile. And he's like, the rules, Scorpio, you can't do anything while he's in training, but he's just kind of teasing him. He's just like, ooh, look at that. Like, I wouldn't mind tying that to a typewriter, and teasing him about the Monarch getting Wonder Boy 3, and Captain Sunshine loses his mind. And goes beats the shit out of Scorpio. Yeah,
beats him with the tail of his own Scorpion car.
Like the performance here where he's freaking out is very good.
Oh, all of his freakouts. Like here, he's just like, just smothering the boy and saying, do you know what could have happened to you?
Yeah. I could have relived this trauma again.
Yeah.
He's tucking him in, and Hank's like, hey, like, we should probably go on patrol at night. Don't more crimes happen at night? And Captain Sunshine goes, well, at night I'm part of a different team. And then they cut to his Justice League is all the action news team, including just the Weatherbot 5.
Yep.
As Ghost Robot. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And sports with
sports. Fucking very good.
It's incredibly good. And they start. It's just Barbecue, who's his co-host or co-anchor. He's late. He runs onto camera. He missed his cue, which is a way to get fired. Actually, that's a huge problem. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's Chuck Scarsdale.
Of course,
he's he's very, very handsome and famous. So Pete and Billy show up first at Captain Sunshine's. They knock out Spray Desmond. Here, Pete calls Billy his ward. And Billy gets really upset. He's like, well, you are kind of my ward, aren't you? It's like, Pete's such a piece of shit. Yep. But Desmond ends up hitting an alarm, which rings on Captain Sunshine's wrist, interrupting him at work. Yeah. Barbecue is showing footage of the cocoon flying towards the manor, and Captain Sunshine starts freaking out because he sees the Monarch coming for his boy.
Again, just with all these cameras in the studio on him, just running around, flailing his arms, going, Wonder Boy, no!
And they're like, cut to something, cut to what? He's like, I don't know. And then the show you're watching, Venture Brothers, cuts to this sizzle reel for a new newscopter.
Yep.
And I have a real soft spot for this bit. It's one of my favorite Venture Brothers bits.
It's just so
news computers.
Yeah. Oh God! It just
The news is just saying shit that happened.
it really
News doesn't modify a
is.
computer.
No,
Like,
like
it-
here's our chopper. We're mostly going to use this to show you people dying on the highways.
Yeah, here's
America
traffic.
is sick. It is an ill society.
Here's a picture of cars. They're not moving. We use Doppler cam, take care of this. And then when he runs out into the helicopter, the same guy who narrated it there, it's like, look, it's Chuck Scarsdale. What brings you to Shopify?
That's the pilot.
This is how he talks.
He talks like that. God, I fucking love like newscast shit. I don't know, man.
It's very it feels like it's gone now. And
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who watches local news. Like everybody I know who watches news watches, CNN or something like that,
Yeah.
or just gets their news from the internet like a regular person.
Right.
The idea of local news where you're just kind of waiting to be shown what it thinks you should see is really alien.
It
and
is.
weird.
Yeah.
In 2021. So he's flying towards the manor here. Hank comes out where 21 and the Monarch and the Pupa twins riding the Mecha Pillar come in, and Hank holds his own.
He does.
I kind of love this. Like 21 punches him, but he it hits the Monarch on the face with a bolo. Mm-hmm. Hits him with a grappling hook. He's kind of doing all right.
Yeah.
here.
I love he's trying to doing like weak karate on 21, going jab, body blow.
He's doing the super punch out.
Yep.
Sounds. And he gets away. The Monarch is chasing him upstairs, like shooting darts at him. And Hank drops the Monarch through his bed, so he ends up getting dressed up as Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
And Captain Sunshine pops in. He sees the Monarch wearing his costume and is freaking out. And the Monarch does a thing that he does every once in a while, which is weirdly mix up sex and villainy.
Yep.
It's this weird self-awareness thing that Monarch has that's really Monarch and sex is a whole thing.
Yeah.
In the show. It's very strange.
Yeah. I just like yes, this is dark. And he is underlining 3 times and drawing a circle around like the misconception about him and Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
But he's just like walking, like doing this hip swaying walk toward Captain Sunshine, saying, wouldn't it just fix everything twisted up inside of you if you could only fuck Wonder Boy and your worst enemy at the same time? And then he takes his hands and like makes kind of a vagina shape and like hovers it around to the front of him, like, where do you want my pussy? Here, like,
yeah.
Just like real grimy, real grody, but I laugh. I don't know.
It's a thing where like I like the idea of fucking something being a way to release you out of a neurosis is a weird thing that I know is real because I see it referenced a lot, but I can't relate to it at all.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I think about like the short story class I took where like we were reading that Sherman Alexie, noted sex pest, short story thing where a guy runs into another Native American guy and they have sex. And the kid in my class was like, it's almost as if he's saying that in order to confront his issues with the race, he must literally have sex with them.
Yeah.
Like he's figuring out a riddle and the teacher's like, good, and I'm like, that's not what's happening. Like, that's stupid. My reaction to that kind of thing is dumb.
Yeah.
Like, or is that like, I think like, it's just like, that's not what is fixed up with him. Like fucking Boy Wonder wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's for me, this ends up feeling a little bit like a weird misstep. It's like giving the robot chlamydia.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple like Monarch sex things, and then at the end of the season when 21 is like pouring his heart out and they're just like, oh, we had a threesome, so what, like we fuck everybody, we're villains. Like it just ends up feeling a little weird to me. I don't know what it is. Like you can just chalk it up to like Gary Prudeness or whatever, but it just I don't get a lot of laughs out of it. And I think it's less interesting than 21's arc of like him being the like actually like not a bad guy.
Yeah.
And then they eventually just like reel all that back for the Blue Morpho stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is not my favorite thing about the Monarch.
No, it's not my favorite thing. I just think that this is well performed, well animated, and if he wants to torture Captain Sunshine, this is him being a very effective villain at doing it.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I would think that he would not be tortured by this because he doesn't want to fuck.
Yeah.
Wonder Boy. I think that's the part that ends up feeling weird to me.
Oh yeah. But he's just like frozen at this because this is, I mean, he can even just be horrified and shocked that somebody is doing this, Yeah. And also he's powerless. Like there's nothing he can do,
Right. Like he's, it reminded me, the fact that it reminds me of Manstrong, when Bud Manstrong is freaking out over Balderich being bisexual as a thing. And it's just like, which one is it? Is Captain Sunshine not turned on, by his boy wonders, or is he turned on?
Yeah.
By his boy wonders. I think that's what is at the heart of it.
Yeah.
To further twist the knife, he's like, hey, I know your secret. Your power doesn't work at night. Kind of making him almost like an hour man kind of figure. Yeah. And he's like, get ready. We've got the sunlight cannon. Put on your sunblock, SPF 5000. I do it. I'm about to have a fun time eating sunshine on a stick. That is a deep fucking cut.
Yeah. Like 70s like California era PSA kind of things. Like
about freezing juice, about making your own popsicles.
Yeah.
For this this ad campaign called Time for Timer, featuring Timer, a tiny cartoon character that represents the sense of time in the body. Really fucking weird.
Oh man,
Timer is a horrible goblin. If you've ever seen a picture of Timer, he's really scary.
I will look him up now. Ooh, no.
Yeah, I do not care for Timer, who ended up also on the Bod Squad on Schoolhouse Rock. No good.
Yeah. But Monarch, of course, thinking, yes, I know his secret, and I can turn his power back on him, right? Do something poetic to him. Fires the sunshine cannon on him. Hey, dipshit! The reason his powers don't work at night is because he needs to have the sunlight to have it happen. Yeah. He just supercharged it.
It's the narration comes in.
Yeah, and it's like powered by the Earth's sun, Captain Sunshine, like that kind of stuff. Yeah. And just starts going around and just blasting everybody.
It's the same voice that introduces the Doom Factory in season 6. So he Captain Sunshine wrecks house. Yeah. Knocks everybody out. He sees Rusty and Pete and everybody. Like, no, we're not with them. Pete claims that, says he's an albino again. So Captain Sunshine should be his arch enemy, basically. And takes everybody out. And eventually Hank stops him, like, hey, that's my family. It's like, oh, you said you were an orphan. I never actually said that.
Yeah.
And they kind of have it out. It just, I get the sense that like, you're not really listening to me and you're just trying to use me as a replacement. For somebody.
Yeah. Which is a nice little bit of emotional intelligence from Hank. Just like I was too polite to ask. It kind of seemed like there was something going on there, but like I can't give you what you need. Like seriously, let me go, please. And Captain Sunshine, this doesn't fit for me. He bends down and like holds his face and does the Godfather Michael DeFredo. You broke my heart, Hank. You broke my heart. That doesn't line up. I don't understand
why there's a Godfather reference. I like him saying, "Don't do this, Hank." Like, "Don't do this" is very like relatable as an impulse in those kind of situations. I don't understand why he gives him the kiss of death.
Yeah.
Rusty is like, that guy might pay $10 million for Hank. Like Rusty trying to sell Hank is very funny.
He called him a honky, Gary.
Yeah, I know, totally. He called me crumb bum. On the maybe a crampon. As they're leaving, Hank's like, hey, Captain Sunshine, put in a good word with Batman. He's like, get out of my sanctum solarium. And that's what it ends on. And then there's one of my least favorite post-credit nothing things here, where the Monarch finally gets to kill the taxi driver.
Yes.
So cool. I don't know why that's there.
Nope.
It reminded me of when we used to do the ending stingers on Watch Out for Fireballs and desperately trying to find something that is funny enough to put at the end of the theme song and just like, I guess this will fucking do. Like, I have to actually upload this, edit it, and move on with my life.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
like a couple sour notes or anything, but I think this episode is really funny, and I like how it expands the universe to include different kind of genre elements from this stuff. And I love a one-off episode that doesn't really tie into the lore.
Yeah.
You know, just characters being funny. And we're going to get tons of that in season 4.
We are.
Big season for like loreless. It's like loreless 4. A lot of weird one-offs.
Yeah. Until the end. But the end of every season usually gets a little lore-y.
Yeah. And the lore stuff that pops up is subtle, and it tends to be for like bits of the universe and stuff. Like we're going to get like a bunch of Orpheus like backstory, you know, and we're going to get a bunch of, you know, the boys are getting highlight episodes now that they can be adults. Or now they can be characters. I like that a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good ass episode.
Good episode.
Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate you. If you'd like to get episodes early, head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah. You not only get episodes early, but you get lots of extra bonus content as well. If you'd like to help us, in addition to that, you can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast directory you use to find us. Or tell your friends if you know they like the Venture Brothers.
Yeah. Or if you just, you know, you think they might.
Yeah.
You know, if they like video games.
Yeah.
Send them our way, because we talk about those shits.
People like video games. I'm led to believe.
They tend to be pretty popular.
Yeah. But until next time, go Team Venture.